The blizzard had been raging for 3 cycles now, and Kor's instincts screamed with a primal urgency that transcended reason. His cubs were out there, somewhere in the frozen wasteland of Glacius 9, separated from the pack during the storm's initial onslaught. As Alpha of the Vraken, a species of towering, fur-covered warriors whose reputation spread across 17 star systems, Kor had never known fear like this. Battle, conquest, even death held no terror for him. But the thought of his offspring, alone and freezing, carved a hollow ache in his chest. The wind howled like a dying beast as Kor pushed through snow that reached his waist. His thermal sensors were useless in this storm, the electromagnetic interference from the planet's core rendering all technology little more than expensive debris. He relied on something older, something buried deep in his genetic memory, the bond between parent and child, a thread of consciousness that pulled him forward through the white chaos. When he finally found the cave entrance, partially concealed by ice formations, that thread burned like fire in his mind. His cubs were inside, but something else was too, something that made his hackles rise and his claws extend instinctively. A human. Kor had encountered humans before, of course. The galaxy had learned to respect and fear these strange, soft-skinned creatures who had clawed their way from a single world to establish themselves among the stars in a mere handful of generations. They were weak by any physical measure, yet they possessed a stubbornness that bordered on insanity. The Vraken had fought alongside humans in the 7th Expansion War, and Kor himself had seen them do impossible things when properly motivated. But a human here? On Glacius 9? This was Vraken territory, a training world where young warriors learned to survive the harshest conditions the universe could offer. Humans had no business here. Kor entered the cave with his plasma rifle raised, every muscle tensed for combat. What he found inside stopped him cold. The cave was warm, impossibly warm for a natural formation on this frozen hell of a planet. His cubs, all 4 of them, lay huddled together near a makeshift fire that burned with unusual intensity. They were alive, their chest fur rising and falling with steady breaths, and kneeling beside them, tending the fire with practiced movements, was the human. "Don't shoot," the human said without turning around, his voice calm despite the weapon aimed at his back. "Your kids are fine. Well, mostly fine. The little one, the female with the white patch, she has frostbite on her back paws, but I've kept her warm. She'll keep the paws if you get her proper medical attention within the next 10 hours. Kor's translator implant processed the words, but his mind struggled to catch up. "You speak Vraken?" "Trade dialect," the human replied, finally turning to face him. He was young by human standards, Kor estimated, with dark hair matted by days in the wilderness and eyes that held a peculiar mixture of exhaustion and determination. "I'm Aaron, xenobiologist. My survey shuttle crashed about 50 kilometers north of here 4 days ago. Been trying to survive ever since. You kept my cubs alive." It wasn't a question, but Aaron nodded anyway. "Found them yesterday huddled together but hypothermic. The smallest one was already unconscious." Aaron gestured to the fire, which Corey now realized was burning some kind of chemical compound, not wood. "I had emergency heat packs from my survival kit, but they wouldn't last. So I improvised." Kor lowered his weapon slowly, his trained warrior's mind analyzing the scene. The human had torn apart his own equipment. Pieces of what looked like a communications array and navigation computer lay scattered around the cave. He'd cannibalized his only means of calling for rescue to create a heating element powerful enough to keep 4 Vraken cubs alive in sub-zero temperatures. "Why?" Kor asked, the word coming out more as a growl than speech. Aaron looked at him, with an expression that Kor's translator couldn't parse, something uniquely human. "Why? Because they're kids. Doesn't matter what species they are. I heard them crying in the storm and He trailed off, looking back at the cubs. "I couldn't just leave them." The smallest cub, Shira, his daughter, stirred at the sound of voices. Her eyes opened, and when she saw her father, she let out a weak but joyful chirp. The sound broke something in Kor's chest. "You sacrificed your rescue," Kor said, understanding dawning. Without your communications equipment, your people cannot find you. Yeah, well. Aaron shrugged, a gesture that translated across species as resigned acceptance. I figured 4 lives were worth more than 1. Besides, I'm human. We're stupidly optimistic about our chances of survival. It's kind of our thing. Kor had heard the stories, of course. Humans who walked across entire continents without food. Humans who survived in vacuum for precious seconds. Humans who refused to die even when death was the logical outcome. He'd always attributed such tales to exaggeration, the kind of myths that grew around any successful species. Looking at Aaron now, this small, fragile creature who had torn apart his lifeline to save children of another species, Kor began to understand. It wasn't that humans were unkillable or supernaturally resilient. It was that they simply refused to accept the universe's verdict on what was possible. The storm is breaking, Kor said, accessing the weather data through his neural link now that he was close enough to the cave's entrance for a signal. My pack will be here within the hour. We will take you and my cubs to our medical facility. I appreciate that, Aaron said, relief evident in his voice. Though I should warn you, human medical needs are pretty different from— You will receive the same care as my cubs, Kor interrupted, his tone making it clear this was not negotiable. Among the Fraken, one who saves our young is bonded to our pack. You are under my protection now, human, for life. Aaron blinked. That's really not necessary. I just did what anyone would— No, Kor said firmly, moving to his cubs and running, his claws gently through their fur, checking each one with a father's careful eye. Not anyone. Most would have prioritized their own survival. You chose differently. He looked at Aaron with new respect. The galaxy calls your kind crazy, reckless, soft. Guilty as charged on all counts, Aaron said with a tired smile. They do not understand, Kor continued. Strength is not merely physical might. It is the will to protect, even at great cost to oneself. In this, humans excel beyond all species I have known. Shira, the smallest cub, crawled away from her siblings and approached Aaron, nuzzling against his leg despite her injured paws. The human gently stroked her head and she purred, a sound of complete trust. Kor watched this simple interaction and felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. His people had conquered worlds, had built an empire on strength and warrior tradition. But perhaps there were different kinds of strength, ones that couldn't be measured in battle prowess or physical dominance, the kind of strength that made a lone, stranded human tear apart his only hope of rescue to keep 4 alien children alive through the longest night of their lives. My pack approaches, Kor announced as his neural link chimed with proximity alerts. Come, Aaron, who saved my cubs. Let us leave this frozen place together. As they prepared to exit the cave, Kor placed a massive paw on Aaron's shoulder, gently, for the human was fragile compared to his kind. You will tell this story to my cubs when they are grown. They will understand what it means to be truly strong. Aaron looked up at the towering alien warrior and nodded, understanding passing between 2 fathers from different worlds. In the frozen den on Glacius 9, where death should have claimed 4 young lives, humanity had instead written another chapter in its improbable survival story, not through advanced technology or superior firepower, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to let children die on their watch. The Alpha had reached the frozen den expecting to find tragedy. Instead, he discovered what made humans truly dangerous, their unlimited capacity to care.